Bienvenue à tous. Welcome to Reporters here on France 24. I'm Mark Owen. Trying to reach Spain, Italy and Greece, migrants are dying in alarming numbers every year, dreaming of a better life in Europe, tragic victims of people traffickers. It's a tragic fact that many of them are not even recovered. Those that are often can't be identified, so a decent burial is sadly rare. Sarah Morris is our reporter based in Madrid. Sarah, thanks for being with us. As we know, all across the Mediterranean, then Spain, Italy, Greece, this is a human tragedy playing out. For too many families, this tragedy means no closure whatsoever. Human Rights Watch is demanding that more is done to inform these families. Is it a question that the powers that be either can't or won't make the effort?
One of the key problems is that we don't even know how many migrants die in the Mediterranean Sea. There was one study done by the International Organization for Migration over a 5-year period in Spain, Italy and Greece, and they found about 19,000 people disappeared or died, and only 13% of those bodies were ever recovered.
Sarah, thank you very much indeed. Let's take a look then at our report by Sarah Morris and Céline Schmitt.
In Algeciras, in the south of Spain, Martin Zamora is known as the migrants' undertaker. For the last 20 years, he's taken the corpses of migrants who perished crossing the Mediterranean Sea back to their families.
¿Qué pasa? Buenos días. ¿Qué tal? Oye, que esta tarde viene la familia del cuerpo que cogimos allí en Sevilla. Bueno, pues ya está.
He's battled for the past few weeks to take the bodies of 3 Algerians back home.
This man was born in Algeria on October 29, 1989. He was married. It was his brother that gave us his details. He finally confirmed that it was him by telling us he had dyed hair and a scar due to recent surgery.
The repatriation procedure is complicated. For a judge to authorize the transportation of a body, there needs to be irrefutable proof of identity.
Do we know any more about the Algerians in the morgue at Cartagena?
The Spanish police sent their fingerprints to the Algerian authorities and they found out who they belonged to. The Spanish judge in charge of the case has all the information now, so I'm waiting for him to approve or reject the identification.
A process that can last weeks.
Perfect, no problem. I'll call again tomorrow to see if there's any news. Still nothing. The judge isn't there today. Judges have to work on a lot of cases at the same time, so I have to keep chasing to ensure things move forward.
Despite Martin's efforts, many corpses don't make it home. He frequently visits this cemetery, which shows the number of migrants he hasn't been able to return to their families.
You might not notice it, but here are the bodies of 13 migrants who died at sea in October 2003. They couldn't be identified, so they were buried here at the municipal cemetery. Until recently, their bodies were kept in a vault, and then finally, they were put in this wall.
Martin says the identities of these 13 migrants were pretty certain. Their families had been tracked down, but the complexity of the procedures required made repatriation impossible.
Just recently, I was speaking to a judge who couldn't understand why the families of dead migrants didn't bother to come to Spain to give a DNA sample. I said to him, "Sir, why do you think migrants cross the ocean in makeshift vessels? They and their families can't make it here any other way." Can you imagine even asking such a question when you know what's happening? It just doesn't make sense to me.
a frustration that grows as the years go by. "12 years ago, we first met Martin at the wheel of his hearse, repatriating a corpse to Morocco.
It's very important for the family to have their son home, even if he is dead."
Martin had left Spain the day before and arrived in the village of Sidi Ismail early morning. He carried the body of Bouchaib with him, a young man, the only remaining photo, this one, taken 12 years ago. Bouchaib died trying to make it to Spain. After weeks of waiting, the village received his corpse. Bouchaib's father struggled to understand why his son left.
He told me he would go to Spain legally. He said, if I've got papers, then I can go and work there. He was supposed to receive the papers in August, but then one night he just left, and I never saw him again. And then I found out that he was dead. We accept his death. It's the will of God.
Despite Bouchaib's death, many young people in the village told us they were ready to risk the dangers of a Mediterranean crossing.
I haven't got any work here. I'm going to try my luck elsewhere.
Young Moroccans are still risking their lives in the search for a better one. Across from the coast of Morocco in Cadiz, Maria Lopez works as a forensic pathologist. The police call her when a body is found on the beach.
When you go to the beach, you're thinking about the sand, about holidays, going in the sea. When I go to the beach, it reminds me of the bodies of washed-up migrants. I can't stop thinking about how they looked.
Every year, Maria and her team try to identify hundreds of dead migrants. Most of them are found with no identifying documents.
We're off to the funeral parlour, where the forensic service is based. That's where the corpses found on the beach are given an autopsy.
At Cadiz's morgue, the meticulous work of the pathologist begins.
Hi.
Hi, Maria. How are you?
Good. Can you take a look with me at the files of the migrants that capsized?
Sure. They're in the archive room.
So we've got all the files here of the last few years. The one we're looking for must be there.
Oh, it's here, look.
In these boxes, there are the cases of more than 300 migrants who've disappeared. All their belongings are kept here.
The police told me Moroccan coins aren't proof enough of the origin of the migrants. They might be Moroccan, but they might just have travelled through the country.
Yes, the coins aren't really relevant. As you can see here, we've been able to take prints because the body wasn't in the water that long. And in this photo, we can clearly see he was missing certain teeth. Here, for example. That helps us a lot because often the family says he went to the dentist and has missed a molar, a tooth from the top, from the bottom. All that gives us clues. But the only way to be certain about the identity of someone is to extract their DNA, to obtain their genetic profile, and to compare it to the family members.
While waiting for the results, the bodies remain at the morgue, often for several years.
Hi.
Have you finished the autopsy?
Yes, and we've classified everything.
Without an identification approved by the judge, The body can't leave here. If we manage to identify someone, there's no point keeping the body here. It takes up space. In those cases, we request a temporary burial.
But the Mediterranean doesn't always return bodies. Every year, thousands of men, women and children die at sea without leaving a trace. In Madrid, the Red Cross has set up a team to try to find them. José Pablo Barraiba is a world specialist in tracking down migrants who've disappeared.
I'm from the regional office of the ICRC in Paris, here to help the Spanish Red Cross to offer a new and fresh perspective on old cases of disappeared migrants. All these cases are complicated because a lot of time has gone by and it's time to see if something can still be done.
This morning, José and his colleagues are focusing on a group of young Algerians whose families reported them missing more than a year ago.
We received the research request from someone's brother who lives in Europe. He gave us his first name and surname, his age. It's a young adult.
These 12 migrants all come from the same neighborhood and seem to have boarded a boat in the same place.
The details from the families are limited because they know that they boarded, but they can only tell us that they got on a boat. There's no information on the arrival.
During their investigation, the Red Cross has made a key discovery. About 30 boats washed up on the Balearic Islands. At roughly the same time, the 12 young people set out.
Small boats, 40 motor, 12, 13 people on board.
The first step in the investigation, the team calls the Red Cross worker on site to check the registers of the migrants that disembarked.
Hi, Elizabeth. We need an Excel list of first names, surnames, nationalities and age, if possible, for the 300 migrants who disembarked. We're going to compare that list to the names of the 12 people missing to see if they're on there.
While waiting for the list, the team combs through the Facebook accounts of the disappeared people.
What's his name? There's no trace of Faisal or Smile.
Here's a post from a year ago, and that was published in July 2020.
Yes, but we can't do anything else. We can move on to the friends.
No friend to show. Là, c'est un dead end, par exemple.
The names of the 12 Algerian migrants can't be found on the registers in the Balearic Islands.
The man who disappeared is neither here nor there. So that's the problem. Where there isn't a dead body, you need to say something to the family. Not the person is dead. Because to say that, you need a body. But you have to at least say that we've reconstructed the events and that the logical conclusion is that.
José, Martin and Maria share the same mission: to ensure thousands of dead migrants are remembered as more than a statistic.
France 24's Madrid correspondent Sarah Morris is still with us. Sarah, thank you for that report. As we saw, these people are trying to work to provide some answers, which is easy to say, for the families, for the loved ones searching for these missing migrants. But it seems as if they're really struggling against the scale of the challenge.
They certainly are. They say that they really would like to give the family members who are looking for their loved ones some kind of closure. But they say there's all kinds of technical procedural difficulties linked to the way that individual countries operate in identifying bodies. Now, one person that we spoke to from the Red Cross, José Pablo Barraiba, he was pretty frank about what he felt was a lack of interest by Western governments in really getting to the bottom and identifying the individuals who had died in the sea.
If someone goes out for the night, say to a club, and we don't hear from them, then what do? We go to the police, we ask people about them, and even for cats and dogs, we put posters up. Why can't people who've disappeared be treated in the same way?
Baraiba and the other experts that we talked to basically said that different agencies, whether it's the courts, the coastal guards, the family members and their information from the social networks, all have different pieces of information and they're not properly connected. And they really say that there is a need to tie up that information to ensure that basically individual migrants who have perished and their families who are looking for them and trying to get some kind of closure are not forgotten and not turned into pure statistics.
Sarah, has European border control and immigration policy contributed to increasing the number of people losing their lives in the Mediterranean? And I'm wondering, really, on the back of that, is the situation expected to improve anytime?
Well, many organisations like Human Rights Watch say basically European governments have focused too much on policing borders and insufficient on the human rights aspects, for instance, saving people, rescuing people from the sea and helping to identify them. And some of them are quite sceptical that that will change anytime soon as a result of those populist anti-immigration parties in the EU, but they say that the EU should think seriously about changing its immigration policy, particularly as, for instance, climate change will drive many migrants out of their homes to try to seek better lives in Europe.
Sarah, thank you very much indeed. A story clearly we're going to be following very closely here on France 24. Sarah and Céline Schmitt with this week's Reporters film. You can see it again on our website, france24.com. This is Reporters on France 24. Stay with us. Most of all, please stay safe.